right. There we go. All right. Welcome to my Colombian national team podcast, videocast, whatever this could possibly turn to in the future. I might do videos as well, but I might just be too ugly for YouTube, so I might not do that. It depends. The reason I wanted to make this podcast was for Colombians like myself who live outside of Colombia and want to get caught up on the national team. I know some of the information that comes out is mostly in Spanish, and the English bits that do get out are not that great, or they're like really watered down. But it's not only just for Colombians. I also, if anyone's interested in the national team and wants to follow them for this edition of the World Cup, that'd be cool too. I just wanted to make a forum where we could all talk and discuss, and whatever topic comes at hand from here on out to, I don't know, maybe past the World Cup, maybe just to the World Cup. I don't know. We'll see how things go. I know for Colombians, it's kind of weird when your cousins or your uncles start talking about the national team, and you have no clue what they're talking about, and you just yeah, Falcao, yeah, because that's the only or James. You're yeah, Falcao, James, because those are the only names you know. But hopefully everyone gets caught up, or I can provide pretty good information. And yeah, so with that, I know this is it's gonna look like a weird PowerPoint presentation. It's gonna look pretty ghetto, but that's because I wanted to be able to make these, or get them out pretty quickly, so that a topic comes out or something happens, and then 3 days later I put one out. I put one of these out, and everybody's wondering why I'm still talking about whatever happened. So this way I can put my thoughts out, put my opinions out as fast as I can, and then we could all just discuss, brainstorm, or be angry together, or whatever controversy or whatever shit happens during this time between now and the World Cup. But I've been following the Colombian national team before 2010, but after 2010, 2014 World Cup, that's when I really got into them, and I became pretty passionate about the whole Colombian national team. And the picture on screen right there is actually the first time I saw them play live, and this was Brazil Colombia in Copa America, Santiago, Chile. And Colombia actually won this game 1-0, which is pretty cool, and I want to talk about it, but I think I'm kind of pressed for time. I don't really want to make a super long podcast, something more than an hour, because I don't want to force people to sit there for more than an hour and listen to my voice. And it's hard to talk for an hour. Your voice starts to crack a lot, and you start saying a lot, and weird noises with your mouth. So I'll get straight to the point. The reason I guess let's start with the topic, which is Pekerman called 35 players. I guess he wants to have these mini tryouts, and I don't know why, because calling 35 people, that's a pretty controversial move on itself, because he could have just called the 23 and got the situation over with. But now he has to tell some people, he's gonna have to hurt their feelings. He's gonna have to tell people that have been playing football their whole lives, or looking forward to this one moment, which is the World Cup, and have been sacrificing their whole lives just to be able to even reach this point in their careers. And now this guy has to come in and tell them, what, you're not good enough to go to the World Cup. So he's gonna have to hurt some feelings. And it's weird because out of those 23 that do go, 3 of them have to be goalkeepers. So that list gets even shorter. And out of those 3 goalkeepers, one of them is going to be playing the whole time, and the second one might play. He might just be there in case the first guy gets injured, but that rarely happens. And if it does, all right, you got the second guy. But the third one, that guy's just there for the selfies, the Snapchat, the Instagram stories. He's not really gonna play much. He's not even the co-pilot. He's the guy in the back who distributes snacks. So the third goalkeeper, I consider the captain of snacks in the national team. And so that list gets a whole lot shorter. And I know in the past, Pekerman has taken 3 goalkeepers, 7 defenders, 9 midfielders, and 4 forwards. And let's go through the list of the 35 at the end, and then I'll be okay, I think this guy's going, or I'll give my opinion about each one of them. But all right, so let's start with the keepers. So Pekerman called 4, And the first one on the list is David Ospina, who plays for Arsenal, Camilo Vargas, who plays for Deportivo Cali, Ivan Arboleda, who is actually one of those surprise call-ups because he's like a young guy, he's like 22, and Jose Fernando Cuadrado, he plays for Once Caldas. He has played some friendlies before for Colombia, but nothing really stood out. For me personally, the ones that I would definitely call up, definitely David Ospina. I know he's been struggling lately because of that, not getting too much playing time in Arsenal. And, the last two qualifiers, he kind of messed up pretty big. I know in the Paraguay game, he fumbled a pretty, the striker, the Paraguayan striker kicked the ball. He saved it, but, couldn't handle the initial kick and fumbled it. And then a Paraguayan striker came in and pretty much cleaned house. And, it was 1-1 at that point. And the second goal was kind of the same thing where Ospina could have handled the fumble better, but he ended up, getting out of his reach or out of his hands, and the Paraguayan striker, cleaned up, and it was 2-1. And at that point, Colombia looked very nervous, very shaky going into the Lima game against Peru, which was for the qualifiers. Everybody really expected Colombia to qualify against that Paraguay team. But now they had to go to Lima to face a very hungry Peru, who, they saw the World Cup in front of them, like right there. Before, they weren't sure, it was like 50-50, but by the end, at the very last game, it was theirs for the taking. So it was going to be hard, but in the end, Colombia and Peru managed to tie it up, and Peru went to the fifth round playoff spot, and Colombia, went straight through. But, David Ospina hasn't been looking too great lately. So hopefully this tryout and these friendlies that are coming up give him some confidence, give him some rhythm, and we see a better Ospina coming into the World Cup. Camilo Vargas, Deportivo Cali. Camilo Vargas has been second choice keeper for a very long time, so I think he's gonna go. I don't see why Pekerman would pick someone else at this point. It's like he's been there the whole time, especially for these qualifiers that just passed. And again, it's a toss-up between Ivan Arboleda and Jose Fernando Cuadrado. Like I said, Cuadrado has played some friendlies in the past, from what I've seen. But I think if it was up to me, I would take the young guy, Ivan Arboleda. He plays in Banfield. And a lot of people don't know this, but James Rodriguez came from Banfield. And Banfield plays in Argentina. And actually, when James was there in Banfield, it was the only time they won, I think they won some hardware with James. I think they won the Argentinian Cup or the league, I'm not really sure. And with James, they went pretty far into Copa Libertadores. So it's good to see that Banfield still believes in some young Colombian talent. But like Banfield, I also believe in young Colombian talent. And I think Ivan Arboleda should go to the World Cup because it'd be good to expose his talent, and maybe have a European team call him up and give him a contract. And it's also good because I feel like the Copa America that's coming up next year, I think David Ospina is not going to get any younger, and his playing time isn't really where it should be. And I feel like Ivan Arboleda can get called up, go to the World Cup, watch Ospina train, ask some questions. I know the national team coaches for the goalies, because goalies get their own coaches. It'd be good to put them in there right away so they can start teaching them everything. And it's not always about football. He has to learn about dieting and exercising, and the right exercising techniques. So that's why I would take Ivan Arboleda, because I feel like this experience for him would be huge and will take him to the next level. David Ospina, Camilo Vargas, Ivan Arboleda, Jose Fernando Cuadrado. I think I would probably I wouldn't take him, but I would give him a chance in the Copa America, just because I didn't take him to the World Cup. But alright, so moving on to the defensemen, which is it's a pretty long list. I think it's 11. And out of these 11, again, 7 only get to go. So we have Cristian Zapata, AC Milan, Davinson Sanchez, Hotspurs, and from the Premier League, Santiago Arias, he plays for PSV Eindhoven in the Netherlands, Ascon Murillo, Pachuca, Liga MX, Frank Fabra plays for Boca Juniors in Argentina, Johan Mojica, he plays for Girona in España, Mina, again, he plays for Barcelona in España. William Tecillo, Santa Fe, that's in Colombia. Bernardo Espinosa, Girona, España. Stefan Medina, Monterrey, Mexico. And I don't really like Stefan Medina, so I'm not really going to mention him when I talk. And Farid Diaz, who plays in Olympia. So I think the 7 that are going to go are Christian Zapata, Davinson Sanchez, Santiago Arias, Oscar Murillo, Frank Fabra, Yerry Mina, and I'm going to say Johan Mujica. Is that 7? Alright, so Christian Zapata, AC Milan, Davinson Sanchez, Santiago Arias, Oscar Murillo, Frank Fabra, Johan Mujica, Yerry Mina. And I think everybody else is probably not going to go. Christian Zapata, he hasn't been getting that much playing time in AC Milan, but he's been in the Colombian national team since 2010. He was pretty much the undisputed starter in the World Cup, and I think that experience is going to translate very well, especially for the two new young guys in that position, which is Davinson Sanchez and Yerry Mina. I think they could benefit from watching him, and they can ask questions and he can give them pointers. So I think it's important to bring experience, especially after the group stages, because after the group stage, it's mostly experience that gets anyone pretty far. It's actually a mix of experience and youth, but mostly experience would benefit any team after the group stage. And when you start getting into the elimination round, Davinson Sanchez, he's the young prodigy right now for the center back position. Same with Yerry Mina. Davinson Sanchez, he's a very mature player, and for people who see him play for the first time, sometimes it looks like he's been playing that position for a very, very long time. But he's only like 21 or 22. He's a young guy, and I've seen him play for Atlético Nacional when they won the Copa Libertadores, and he was a very important piece in that win, in that whole run. He's very good with the ball at his feet. He has good speed. He doesn't panic if he gets caught in that corner. He knows how to handle situations where you have two forwards on him, and he could just diffuse that situation and get that ball downfield. And with that, I think one of his only weaknesses is that long range pass that center backs sometimes have to make when the game is really closed up and the midfield is really cluttered and you have to bypass it. So sometimes a center back, one of his tools is he just hits the long ball, maybe gets the ball to an attacking midfielder or a forward, and that way it alleviates the pressure on the midfielders and maybe creates some space. And Davinson Sanchez, I always like to say that he should be the blueprint for young talent going to Europe from South America, because when he was doing really well in Atlético Nacional in the Copa Libertadores, he was getting a lot of attention from very important teams. I know Barcelona was one of them, and he actually turned them down and decided to go to Ajax in the Netherlands. And he fought it out there. He earned the starting position in Ajax. Then they went to Europa League, and I think they got to the final. I'm not really sure if they won that final, but they got to the final, and that that was good for him, because for Davinson Sanchez, because he was able to showcase his talent to a larger European audience. And I think that's what got the attention of the Hotspurs, because they signed him after that, and he has become their number one starter for the center back position, like undisputed starter for the center back position. And they went pretty far in Champions League with him, so that's also good for him. He's gonna come into these to the World Cup full of confidence, and he's gonna come in form. He's been playing twice a week, not all the time, but up to when they got eliminated from Champions League. But yeah, Davinson Sanchez, I would take him. Santiago Arias in PSV Eindhoven, he's probably going to go just because he's always been there. He's been he's on the 2014 World Cup, he just started breaking through. I know Camilo Zúñiga was mostly in that spot, and he was pretty much undisputed. But then the 2018 qualifier, the 2018 qualifiers for the World Cup, Santiago Arias really grew into that position, and he has become the undisputed starter, and has earned the trust of Pekerman. And I like him because he's good at attacking. He provides that extra space and that extra pressure on defensive structured teams, because he comes in from the defensive side of the field, passes the halfway line, provides some good crosses, some really good walls, some really good passing goals, and he provided that assist for the Brazil-Colombia game, where Brazil was coming in like super hot. They were beating everyone like 3-0, 4-0, and Colombia managed to slow down that momentum with a tie, and that was thanks to Santiago Arias, who provided the assist, and Falcao put it away. So that's why I think he's gonna go. And Oscar Murillo, I think he's gonna go because he has been in the process for a long time. I personally don't like him because he gets injured a lot in the Copa America, and the thing is, he gets injured in some pretty important games. And I think the Chile-Colombia game, he got injured and kind of put everybody out of rhythm, because the starting 11, when they train together and they talk strategy together, and when someone from the starting 11 unexpectedly gets hurt or has to get subbed off unexpectedly or not part of the strategy, that really throws everybody off. And now some other guy who's gonna come in is out of rhythm and doesn't really know exactly what's happening in the field or the movements that are happening in the field. So that's why I don't really like Oscar Murillo, because of that. It's because I find he's a liability. And he plays as a center back, so there's already good center backs already. But I don't know. I think he's gonna go most likely. Frank Fabra in Boca Juniors. Frank Fabra has actually also grown into that spot. He's a left back, and he's been starting at Boca Juniors all the time now, so he's really earned that spot there, and which is good. And Boca Juniors has been playing Copa Libertadores, so Frank Fabra, he's been playing he's been playing twice a week, so he's gonna come in with form and confidence into the World Cup. And like Santiago Arias, he provides that speed on the sides. And Frank Fabra has goals. He scores goals for Boca Juniors, and I don't think he has scored some for the Colombian national team, but that could change. He has that vision where he could actually risk it all and go into the box. I just don't like that sometimes he gets caught out of position, and Colombia gets exposed defensively. But hopefully that gets figured out before the World Cup, hopefully. Johan Mojica in Girona, he played in the friendlies when they went to China, and they played China and South Korea, and he played those friendlies. Now I haven't really seen him play in Girona, but from what I saw on the Colombian national team, I thought he did a pretty good job. I wasn't really like blown away or taken aback, like, oh my god, he should go all the time. But he's probably not going to be the starter for that position, which I think he's a left back. So him and Frank Fabra are supposed to, I guess, rotate that position. Hopefully, that helps. And so Yerry Mina, I don't know, I have beef with him because he hasn't been getting any good playing time in Barcelona, which kind of sucks. Because he's a really good, talented player. I know in Palmeiras he was doing really well. He was even scoring goals for them. And then he goes to Barcelona and, has been sitting the bench the whole time. I think he's only played a handful of games. And I think the last game he played was pretty controversial because, Barcelona was going for the undefeated run for the season. And Yerry Mina was there. He played, and a lot of people, blame him for the goals. But it's kind of short-sighted, especially, Yerry Mina hasn't been playing at all. And maybe it was a bad coaching decision to put him there if they were really taking it seriously and going for the undefeated season. But I think Yerry Mina, hopefully he bounces back from this. And, these friendlies that are coming up again help him get some playing time and some confidence. But for sure he's going. For sure. William Tecillo from Santa Fe, I don't know. It's a toss-up. He might not go. I don't know. I haven't really seen him play. I know he scored some goals lately, but there's already some better people in that position. Same with like Bernardo Espinosa. He's a center back, and I think he's like 30 something, and there's already 4 way better talented center backs than him. And Stefan Medina is just a terrible player. I think I always bring up the Chile Colombia game, the last qualifiers, where Chile went up 3-0 before the half, and like every single goal was a Stefan Medina mistake. Like there was one goal, I think the second goal, where he just slips for no reason, no one around him. He just like faints or whatever, and Vidal was behind him, and Vidal was probably like, what the fuck, and he had the ball in. I think just because he was probably like surprised that was gifted to him like that. So good on Vidal for keeping his composure and not laughing. And Farid Diaz, he's like 33, 34. I don't know why he's getting called up. I think he's a left back, but he's like that left back that doesn't, pass the halfway line. He's on the older side, like I was saying, and maybe he just doesn't have that energy anymore. But he does provide pretty good link play from the defense to the midfield. So he could go just to have a different. So Colombia has a different look or a different strategy once the games get really tight. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's all. That's 11 defensemen that called up, and all 4 of them are gonna have their dream shattered. All right, so Christian Zapata's going, Davinson Sanchez, Santiago Arias, Oscar Murillo, Frank Fabra, Johan Mejica, Yerry Mina, and that's it. That's 7, man. And those are the ones that I think are probably gonna go. Who's gonna start? I don't know. Maybe after the final 23 come out, I'll build my starting 11 from those. But from now, let's move on to the midfielders, which is, how many of them are there? There's a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 midfielders. And out of 14, 9 get to go. So that's going to be rough. I have a pick. Oh, cool. Okay, so actually I have pickers. I forgot to use that. Anyways, so the first one, Wilmar. I always think it's William, but it's Wilmar Berrios from Boca Junior. Now, the first time I saw Wilmar Berrios play, I was not very impressed. I couldn't really blame him, because it was when Colombia lost 3-0 to Argentina, and I think that whole game, it was just controversial, that whole game, because Pekerman picked literally the worst squad he could have. He picked Wilmar Berrios, who as a starter. And William Berrios hasn't played in Boca Juniors. Well, at the time, he went to Boca Juniors, and he hasn't played in Boca Juniors for about 8 months. And for some reason, Pekerman said, all right, you're going to start, and you're going to cover Messi. And I thought that was ridiculous. But I don't know. I gave the kid a chance, and I saw the game, and I was like, man, both the goals, I think all 3 goals were his fault. And another person that I thought shouldn't have started was Davinson Sanchez, who played his first game, that 3-0 loss to Argentina, who I thought shouldn't have started. I think it should have been someone with experience, like Zapata or even Oscar Murillo, just because Oscar Murillo has been coming and playing for the team. But I don't know, that whole, like, he called Jason Murillo, he made Eder Balanta. Eder Balanta is a center back, and for some reason he made him a left back on that. It was just like one of those games where I guess Pekerman wanted to toss, or just got very experimental, because he was doing some funny business. But William Berrios, like I said, I saw him play. I wasn't impressed. All 3 of the goals Argentina made were kind of his fault. I felt like he was a huge liability, and that game could have been a whole lot closer if someone with more experience was on instead of Berrios. But Berrios has grown into that position, and he plays a lot at Boca Juniors. I don't think he's their undisputed starter, but he plays a lot for them. And hopefully he changes my mind about him for this World Cup, because I think Pekerman has been calling him a lot. So I think he's probably gonna take him. Next one is Carlos Sanchez, who plays at Espanyol in España, and Carlos Sanchez has been in the national team. Man, probably since the qualifier started for this round, he's been really the undisputable starter in that position, and he just provides that that security that sometimes Colombia needs, especially on a counter. Uh, if Colombia gets exposed, Carlos Sanchez has the speed and the energy and like the vision to see what's gonna happen before it happens, and he puts himself in good defensive positions. So for sure, Carlos Sanchez is probably gonna go. Jefferson Lerma, Levante España. He has been playing some friendlies now and then, but he hasn't really stuck out in my head as someone who's probably going to take a starting position over all these other guys that have been on there for a long time. But I think he's going to go. I'm not really sure, but I think he might go. I think he's one of those toss-ups that maybe not 50-50. But I think at the end, after I name everyone, I'll give my my 9 that are going. All right, and the next one is Jose Izquierdo, who plays for Brighton Hove and Albion in the Premier League, and he's been kind of like a breakout talent because he kind of came out of left field. He was playing in Belgium before, and he was doing really good, and then he got a call up when he was playing in Belgium, and he was scoring goals. I think it was for Bragas. I can't really remember exactly what team it is in Belgium, but I know it was like BRU, and that's all I remember. But at Brighton Hove and Albion, he's been I think he's been earning that starting position for them, and he has been playing a lot, and he has scored some pretty important goals for them. Especially, I think he scored against Manchester the last time they played. And from what I've seen them play, I mean, I would prefer someone. He plays almost the exact same position that Muriel plays, that winger position, and I think Muriel might play it better. And Jose Izquierdo provides that speed, but I don't know. He doesn't look like a speedy dude, but he does have some speed. But most likely he is gonna go for sure. I just think he's another option that Pekerman could use, maybe to change the strategy in the World Cup, because I know in the World Cup, if a team's like, let's say you play Japan first, which Colombia is doing, and then Senegal is already watching you play, and then they watch you play against the Poland, so they kind of know what your strategy is gonna be. So sometimes you gotta throw in not like a secret weapon, but maybe a twist to some of your strategies. And I think Izquierdo can provide that twist. All right, next is James Rodriguez. And there's really nothing I could possibly say about James Rodriguez, but he's going, period. He's like the best player Colombia has. And he's pretty much the captain in the midfield. And, he just elevates everybody else's game around him. So James Rodriguez will definitely go. Giovanni Moreno from Shanghai. It's in China. I know that team's in China. And Giovanni Moreno, I don't know, man. He looks like a weird. Hold on, do I have a thing of him? Giovanni Moreno. There he is. He looks like a weird dude. He's tall and he has a weird shape. He's not very speedy, but he does provide some pretty good assists from long distance. He's also pretty good in the air because he's a pretty tall dude. So when the corners are coming in, he can get to them a whole lot quicker. But I don't know if he's gonna go, to be honest. I would probably take someone else, someone with more speed, and sometimes, I mean, if you need height, there's probably already some other players. But Giovanni Moreno, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think he's gonna go. I don't know if he's gonna go. Abel Aguilar, Deportivo Cali. I don't know what it is about Abel, but every time he plays, Colombia wins. And I mean, I'm not saying every time he plays. I mean, like every time Colombia plays some heavy hitters, Abel Aguilar, he's there, and for some reason Colombia wins or they do really well. And I don't know what it is that he does. He's like that guy in the background that is not really flashy. He just puts in work, and you don't really know what he does, but he whatever he's doing, it's helping everybody else. So, I mean, he scored that crazy goal against Uruguay in Barranquilla, but I think he just provides that calmness that Colombia needs sometimes. I know Colombia, when they score a goal, and I've seen it happen like many times, they just want to go for the second goal and they just like go all forward and try to risk it all. And I think that's a huge mistake because sometimes they get caught out of position and they get countered on and get scored on, which sucks. And I think Abel Aguilar provides that that pause in the game, so everybody gets calmed down. All the heart rate goes down again. Everybody gets focused, and sometimes the best thing to do after a goal is to calm the game down and just frustrate the other team, just because the other team now has to chase the ball around. They just got scored on. They're not as I don't know. I guess they'll be like a bit let down that they got scored on. So they got that emotion behind them, and they're gonna chase down every ball. So you just gotta pause the game, pass the ball around, tire the opposing team out a little bit longer, and when you have the ball, you rest with the ball. So they decide the tempo of the game, and I think Abel Aguilar provides that pause that Colombia sometimes needs after they score. Mateo Zuribe, the next one, he plays for America in Mexico, but I seen him play in Atlético Nacional, and I was mostly impressed when he played in Atlético Nacional. He has a pretty good long range strike, and he has like the lungs of, I don't know, like he has lungs of iron, because he could run for 90 minutes non-stop, and even like the 93rd minute plus, the 93rd minute he's still running and still chasing balls and still trying to score. And he has a really good long range strike, and I've seen him score some bombs for America. So I think he's probably gonna go, and if he does, that's really good. I think he's like 27, so he's not gonna be that breakout talent that Colombia has, but he might attract some mid-table teams, and have a career there, maybe play some Europa League, maybe play some Champions Leagues, and then come back to the national team and translate that into some hardware, maybe a Copa America next year, or who knows. Alright, so Jimmy Chara is the next player that's on this list, and Jimmy Chara, for me, Jimmy Chara is what Cuadrado used to be when Cuadrado was younger. He had that speed, he has that confidence, he had that ability to shake people off the ball and get around them, and I think he's probably gonna go, because it's every time he gets the ball, he's just so explosive, and you feel like he's gonna do something every single time. And I feel like he's on the older side. I think he's like in his 30s, but I don't know where that energy comes from. I don't know where that speed comes from, because usually once you get older, you lose some of their speed. But Jimmy Chara, he still has it. I know he plays for Junior de Barranquilla, and he hasn't been playing. I mean, they were in the Copa Libertadores, but they weren't doing too great. I think they just recently got eliminated, or they didn't get to the group or the knockout phase of it. But I don't know. I like Jimmy Chara, and every time I see him play, even in the friendlies or in the qualifiers that just ended, I was very impressed with him. So hopefully he goes, but he's gonna be he's definitely in my pick of the 9 that are gonna go. And alright, so moving on to Quintero, El Nalgón, as they call him in River Plate, and he plays in a pretty historical team in Argentina. And he actually, I don't know, he's a weird dude, man, because he used to play at Porto, then he got loaned out to DIM in Medellin, Deportivo Independiente Medellin, and now he's at River Plate. And even at River Plate, he wasn't really starting a lot. I think he just recently started starting, which is good, because he's really talented. He's a really talented dude, and I don't know what his fall of grace was, but I hope he gets back on back on the right path, because we need him. I feel like the only thing the thing about Quintero is that if James wasn't around, he would be James. He's really talented. He's quick. He provides really through balls to any player that's between lines. He has a good corner kick. He has a really good foot for free kicks, and I think he's gonna go. He has been in the World Cup, and I think he actually scored the World Cup. He has scored in the World Cup before. So he's gonna go just because he has Pekermans' confidence, and he's been in that process for a long time. And so the next one is the most controversial guy. No, actually no, he's probably one of the most controversial guys. Edwin Cardona. who plays in Boca Juniors. Man, Boca Juniors has a pretty good contingent going to the World Cup from Colombia. There's a lot of Boca Juniors players here, but Edwin Cardona. I don't know, man. He's not like a very talented player, but he's just really, really fucking lucky. Like, I don't know what it is about him. Like, he's not very fast, but he just knows where to be at the right time and at the right place. I know he saved our ass against Bolivia, where he scored like in the 93rd minute. And that was, South American qualifiers are the Game of Thrones of qualifiers and the hardest qualifiers. Because like Messi with Argentina could lose to Bolivia 5-0 in La Paz. And then you get the back-to-back Copa America champions not even go to the World Cup. And like every point and every goal matters. So when Edwin Cardona scored against Bolivia in La Paz for the 3 points in like the 93rd minute, though, that was super, super important. We really needed those points. But then he, not only that, but then he did it again against Paraguay, where like it was like the dying last 10 seconds, and like Baca assists Cardona, and he kicks it in and scores, and we needed that, and that was in Paraguay. So those 3 points are all thanks to Edwin Cardona. And like I said, he's not that, he's a really lucky dude, because there was that friendly against Spain where one of his goals, when the goal he scored was like the keeper kicked the ball, it hit Edwin Cardona in the face. Like he didn't know anything about it. Like I think he was trying to rush the keeper or something, and the keeper kicked it, hit Edwin Cardona in the face, and it went in, and Colombia tied that game, and it was 2-2, Spain Colombia. But credit to Edwin Cardona, he has a good long range shot, he has a good free kick, like he has a strong foot, and he does score goals for Boca. But he's a controversial dude. He did that whole squinty eye thing when they play in South Korea. He's just immature. I don't know why he did that, but he got a suspension for that, and just in time for the World Cup, he's back. He's also, I remember in Argentina there was this huge controversy where apparently he was like in an elevator with a bunch of other Boca players, and like they allegedly harassed I don't know, some women or something, and I don't know what came from that, because that kind of died down and no one's ever talked about it again. But I think Edwin Cardona is gonna be one of the 9 that are going. And the next person is Juan Guillermo Cuadrado, who obviously he's gonna go. There's really nothing I could say that no one else has seen. He's a very talented player. He plays for Juventus. He's been in the process since 2010. He was in the 2014 World Cup. He was undisputed starter in the 2014 World Cup, and he will most likely be the undisputed starter for this World Cup, just because he has the experience. He doesn't have that speed anymore, but I don't know, man. Sometimes he does get around people, and he just like beelines it down the field and provides an assist. So, and I think even defenders, just from the name and who they have in front of them, sometimes they're not as confident as he is, and he'll get around them. So the next one is Gustavo Cuellar for Flamengo, and I don't think he's gonna go. I've never seen him play in a friendly, or if he has, he like shows up for like the final 10 minutes or the final 15. I've never seen him start a game, but I don't think he's gonna go. And Sebastian Perez, who plays for Boca Juniors, I don't think he's gonna go either. I think he's been injured lately, and he just got off an injury, and I guess Pekerman is calling him just to see where he's at, because he has been playing. He has played in the past for Colombia. He actually has scored a goal in Colombia. I think he scored against Ecuador in Barranquilla, if I'm not mistaken. So he might not go, but yeah, I don't know. It's a toss up for him. But for me, the ones here, I'll give my 9 that are I think are gonna go. We got Wilmar Berrios, who's probably gonna go. Carlos Sanchez, who's going. Jose Izquierdo, James Rodriguez, Abel Aguilar, Mateo Uribe, Jimmy Chara, Quintero, and Cuadrado. Actually, you know what? Let's take out shit. I don't know. See, this one's hard. I don't know how Pekerman's gonna decide. Okay, so Carlos Sanchez, Izquierdo, James Rodriguez, Abel Aguilar, Mateus Uribe, Jimmy Chara, Quintero, Cuadrado, and yeah, Berrios. That's probably gonna be the 9 right there. And I'm sorry for everybody else, but you're not gonna go. All right, so let's go to the forwards, which, you know, this is probably gonna be the most controversial part of the whole thing, because there's some really talented forwards here, and only 4 get to go. And the ones that got called up are Falcao Garcia, Duvan Zapata, Miguel Borja, Carlos Baca, Luis Fernando Muriel, and Teofilo Gutierrez, who's another controversial figure in the Colombian national team. And again, only 4 of these get to go. So yeah, Falcao Garcia, I mean, he doesn't need any introduction. He's the top goal scorer for Colombia. I feel like if he went to the 2014 World Cup, Colombia would have gone to the finals. Him and James Rodriguez. I know people say, oh, but if Falcao didn't go, James. No, James and Falcao have been playing for a long time. They played at Monaco. They played at Porto together. They knew each other very, very well. I don't think Falcao would have, in any way whatsoever, you know, stopped James Rodriguez from going to Real Madrid and whatnot. I think they would have complemented each other well, just how they have for the longest time. And, you know, I think Colombia would have made it to the final, because Falcao at that moment he was a beast. He was like the number 1 striker. It was gonna be James Rodriguez and Falcao in Real Madrid, were the rumors, but Falcao got injured, and he had that. I don't know, it was sad seeing him play at, you know, Chelsea and Man United, because they didn't really like appreciate him as for what he's done. They kind of wanted him to score 20 goals coming out of that injury, which he wasn't going to do. And I don't know why anyone at Chelsea or Man U was putting that type of pressure on him. I mean, Falcao had to relearn how to use his body and essentially how to play and kick a ball and play soccer. I mean, not a lot of people come back from that injury, and he has, because after that he went back to Monaco and they went back to the Champions League. And he scored that amazing goal like against Man City, where he like shook he got the ball, shook the defender off, cut inside, and the keeper thought he was gonna, you know, try to go for the sides, but Falcao ended up just, you know, flicking it over the keeper and eliminating Man City with Pep Guardiola, who were like unstoppable. They were just like crazy. But, you know, Falcao Garcia, obviously he's gonna go. He's the captain right now of the Colombian national team, top goal scorer. I'm pretty sure his tally's gonna go up, and there's no one better than him right now. So out of the 4 forwards that are going, that spot's gone. It's down to 3, and it's up to Duvan Zapata from Sampdoria. And I like Duvan Zapata, man. He's like he reminds me of Jackson Martinez, just because he's strong, he's fast, and, you know, he can shake defenders off the ball. He can receive the ball, you know, away from the net or facing away from the net, turn around, you know, muscle the defender, and, you know, get into some pretty dangerous positions. So I like Duvan Zapata, and I like what he's doing at Sampdoria. I've seen him play a couple of times, and it's just, yeah, I think he's probably gonna go. Miguel Borja, I don't know, man. I seen Miguel Borja at Atlético Nacional, and he did score some very important goals, but I've always thought like you could have put anyone in that Atletico, you could have put any forward in that Atlético Nacional side, and they would have scored the same goals he has, just because that team was so stacked. And I'm talking about the 2016 Copa Libertadores winning Atlético Nacional. Miguel Borja came in like at the second part of the whole qualifiers, Copa Libertadores, and, you know, he scored the goals. I think he scored the winning goal in the final, but I feel like again, anyone could have scored those goals just because of the team that was behind them. And you know, Borja plays for Palmeiras, and I don't know if he's an undisputed starter at Palmeiras, but he has scored some goals for them. But, you know, when he does play for the national team, sometimes I see him walk. Sometimes he doesn't give that 100% of playing time. Sometimes he just walks or just looks not interested in what's going on. I would, if Borja does go, I would probably make him my support striker for Falcao, because he does provide some pretty good assists. You know, he centers the ball pretty well. and he can get behind defenders and unbalance them. But Miguel Borja, he's probably gonna go. And I know. So all right. So where was I? So Borja. Let's see Borja. There he is. Now let's talk about Carlos Bacca, who has essentially disappeared from the face of the earth. Colombian national team wise, I know recently he's made a resurgence in Villarreal, and I think he was like nominated La Liga striker of the or top 3 or something like that. But for me that isn't enough, because as far as I've seen him play for the Colombian national team, like I said, he just hasn't been there. He's just disappeared, and I feel like there's probably better and younger talent in that position. And I wouldn't take Carlos Bacca to the World Cup, but I would take Luis Fernando Muriel, who plays in Sevilla in España. And Muriel is that he's quick. He still has that that pace and that energy, and he scores goals. And the only thing is, going back to Borja, the only thing I don't like about Borja is that he misses so many chances. Like so many chances. He can get. I know that game against Australia. And I guess I want to talk about the chances he misses, because I feel like that's one of Colombia's weaknesses. They get a lot of chances, and both Borja and Muriel are the type of forwards that get a lot of chances and they can put the game away right away, but then they just don't have that finishing touch. And I think that's what's hurting Colombia right now. And Muriel and Borja do have that, but I'd still take them just because they're good support strikers. And Falcao Garcia, he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. So, we don't need to put pressure on these two guys. But for sure, I think Luis Fernando Muriel. I would take Luis Fernando Muriel just because, he played well against France in that game where Colombia came back 3-2. And he provided the first goal. And the last striker is Teofilo Gutierrez, who I'm not going to take. But, he's a controversial guy, but I wouldn't take him. He's already... He played in the 2010 qualifiers leading up to the 2014 World Cup. He was pretty much the undisputed starter for a while, and just recently, he just hasn't been the same player. He plays for Junior in Barranquilla, but I wouldn't take Teofilo Gutierrez. I know I would take. So these are my 4. I would take Falcao Garcia, Duvon Zapata, Miguel Borja, and Luis Fernando Muriel. I know people are gonna be like, but you're leaving Bacca out. But you know what? Go back to the qualifiers and see, how Bacca has been doing for us, and you'll see that it just, hasn't been putting that work at all. I mean, he hasn't scored in a really long time. But all right, so those are the ones that I think are going. Hopefully, here, I'll give a rundown again. The 23 that I think are gonna go, because I don't even remember talking so much. I don't remember who I picked, but you guys can quote me on this one because this is the final time I'm gonna do this. The 3 goalkeepers that are gonna go: David Ospina, Camilo Vargas, Ivan Arboleda. Again, Ivan Arboleda, the youth, the future. Get him in right now. Give him that experience. Maybe he can watch Ospina train. Ask for pointers, ask questions, motivate him to be a better player. Defensemen, 7 they're gonna go: Cristian Zapata, Davinson Sanchez, Santiago Arias, Frank Fabra, Yerry Mina, and let's go with Oscar Murillo. Those are who would I take? Cristian Zapata, Davinson Sanchez, Santiago Arias, Oscar Murillo, Frank Fabra, Yerry Mina, and Johan Mojico. Those are the ones that I would take for sure. I didn't write this down, so I should have. And so the 9 midfielders that are gonna go are Carlos Sanchez, Jose Izquierdo, James Rodriguez, Abel Aguilar, Mateus Uribe, Jimmy Chara, Quintero, Cuadrado, and Cardona. Those are the ones that are probably gonna go, just because they've been there for a long time. And some of them have been playing since like 2010, 2014. In the forwards, Falcao Garcia, Duvon Zapata, Borja, and Muriel. I'm sorry, Bacca, and I'm sorry, Teo, but I'm gonna have to leave you guys out. So those are the 23 that I think are gonna go. Let's see once the final list comes out. how right I was and how wrong I was, and I'm probably gonna get some hate because I left out some people that some people felt should have gone. But you guys could just let me know what you guys think, what your 23 are, and and let me know how I did. This is my first ever podcast, and talking for this long is not easy. Like you want to drink a water right away, and you don't want to say a lot or breathe into the mic too much or sound really fucking annoying. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this little podcast that I'm gonna do. Actually, this is a long. Hopefully, this is the longest I get to do. But there was a lot of information to go through, and yeah. So just let me know how I did. Like or subscribe. I want to kind of do more of these. I know once the final 23 come out, I'll do a quick podcast about that. And then once the Egypt friendly, which is I think June 1st, is happening. June 1st. Once that, but before that, interesting note. There's gonna be a Colombia versus Colombia. Now, last time Colombia went to the World Cup, they split up the teams, and it was like Colombia red versus Colombia yellow. It was very entertaining, very entertaining. It's cool to see you have like James Rodriguez versus Falcao, and I think last time around after that match, I think Pekerman chose his final 23, so he might do that again this year for this edition of the World Cup, and that actually is happening on Friday, May 25th, I think. Because after that they have to make their way to Europe, where they are going to face Egypt, which is actually gonna be an interesting game. I feel like Egypt and Colombia are pretty close in level wise and skill wise. I know every team is gonna be hard in the World Cup, so this is gonna be a really good friendly for Colombia. So yeah, I'm gonna make I'll make a podcast for the Colombia versus Colombia game, and I'll do one for the 23 once they get chosen, and then I'll do one after the Egypt friendly. And with that, I will thank you everyone for listening. If you listening to me while you're playing your video games, or you're on your drive home or something, or you got time to listen, thank you very much. Hopefully you got a kill streak. Hopefully traffic wasn't too heavy. And thank you for listening. I will so just like, subscribe. I don't know, I'm not big on YouTube, or just even comment, and let's have a back and forth conversation about the thing we're passionate about, which is the Colombian national team. All right, peace out. Thank you.